I've felt like, Robert Kraft has this term elegant solution or elegant conclusion. And, I think he would prefer that with Bill. Like, I think he would prefer that it end in a way where he's able to give Bill his brass ring and send him off into the sunset. And, I don't think Bill wants to be done coaching after this year. And so I think, what I've felt like for a while now is what would hasten his departure wouldn't be just a flat out firing. It would be your football operation is messed up. We need a restructure. We're going to restructure when you leave anyway, because no coach gets that much power. So instead of doing it after you leave, we're going to do it now. And we're going to bring in a personnel man. And that personnel man is going to report to me, not to you. You're still going to report to me, but we're going to set this up differently because we don't feel like you've done a good enough job putting talent on the roster over the last 5 years. And then it might be up to Bill, and in that case, it would be, do you want to be part of this or not? And ironically enough, like that's what hastened the departure of Bill Parcells. If you remember, they took personnel power away from him in 1996. There was the whole Terry Glenn thing, and then he walked in 97. And so would Bill have an appetite for coming back under a different structure with a general manager who doesn't answer to him?
Interesting.
I felt like all along, like that was the more likely conclusion if this season didn't go right. But I didn't foresee them losing by 30 2 weeks in a row. So, I think everything might be on the table now.
Gut feeling. How does this end?
My gut feeling is they're not good enough this year, that the roster is just flat out not good enough. You know what the best way to illustrate it is, Dan? Look at the roster. Tell me what player you can say is going to be there 5 years from now. One player. Christian Gonzalez.
Yeah.
Who's been there for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the sort of disrepair the roster is in right now. And, so I don't think they're good enough. I think that this is probably at best a 6 or 7 win team. I don't think that's going to be good enough for Robert Kraft. And I think they're going to be at a crossroads at the end of the year. And I don't think if things play out that way, if it's 6 or 7 wins, I don't think Robert Kraft is going to be satisfied to run it back the same way it is now in 2024. And I think that would lead to difficult conversations. And I mean, it's certainly possible. The conclusion could be that Bill Belichick's no longer the coach in 2024. And, it's almost hard to envision that scenario. It would have been, if you had said that before the year or a couple of years ago, certainly, but that's where the roster is. That's where the season seems to be going. And, I think it was interesting this morning. I think Bill said in his press conference, I might not have this quote exactly right, but I think he said something along the lines of like, the Raiders have 5 of the top players in the league at their positions, which is probably true. There's almost like, so what are you saying about yourself by just bringing that up on your own?
Yeah.
And are you pointing the finger somewhere else, even though you're the one who had control over all of this? It's just, I don't know. It's just a weird deal there now.
Yeah, that the Raiders have guys at their position. Then I would ask Bill, how many players do you have at their position that they're the best in the league? And I don't know if he'd answer it, but I do.
Probably wouldn't. But I mean, you look at it and it's like, it's true. I mean, it's just they don't have premier talent, and I think the overriding thing is they're still operating like it was 10 years ago. Like I have a guy I'm pretty close with who used to be in the division, an NFL executive who said to me, it feels, and I think this is the best way to put it, it's like Bill is fighting the last war of his way, and he's kept doing things his way despite the league continuing to move in different directions. And his way for so long was supported by some tent poles in the organization. Like if you're not as good on the offensive line, Brady will get rid of the ball a little faster. If you're not as good at receiver, Brady will throw the ball into a little bit of a tighter window. If you can't run the ball as well, Brady can make up for that in the passing game. If you don't play defense as well, Brady will win shootouts. So there's that. Then, you go beyond just the level of having the greatest player of all time. It's like they built the offensive line this year, like Dante Scarnecchia was still there. And it's really hard to ask a first-year offensive line coach coming in to perform at that level. And Dante Scarnecchia turned a college wrestler into a Pro Bowl guard, well, and he was able to make things work so many times with less talent up there. They're still operating like Dante Scarnecchia is there when the rest of the league spends top 10 picks to go get left tackles,
Mm-hmm.
And so there are so many of these spots that they're left short at. And it's almost like they're under the spell. Well, it'll work itself out. It doesn't work that way, Bill. You got to put good players at those spots. And the best players have good players at premium positions. The way the Rams won a Super Bowl, was with Matt Stafford at quarterback, Cooper Kupp at receiver, Andrew Whitworth at left tackle, Aaron Donald as a pass rusher, Jalen Ramsey at corner, and we'll make it work everywhere else.
Yeah.
The Patriots have never built that way because they're the greatest player of all time and they believed in balance across their roster. But it's really, really hard to win that way when you don't have Tom Brady pulling the trigger.